The fruit basket came first, then the charge. I was peeling a bright orange, its citrus scent momentarily cutting through the usual stillness of my living room, when the bank alert buzzed on my phone. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A nearly $4,000 charge from Aspen Ski Resort, billed directly to the credit card I barely used anymore. My daughter Emily's name was on the reservation. I just stared at the screen, orange rind still clinging to my fingers. She hadn't called. She hadn't visited. But she'd gone skiing. On my dime. The fruit basket sat on my kitchen counter, wrapped in golden cellophane and red ribbon. A cheerful card was tucked inside. "Merry Christmas, Dad. Hope you're staying warm. Love, Em." Hope I'm staying warm? I scoffed. The only warmth in this house came from my old space heater rattling in the corner and the blanket I wrapped around my legs every night. The furnace had been broken since October. I hadn't told her. I figured she had enough going on. And apparently, she did. I rose from the armchair slowly, knees creaking. The same way the house creaked at night, tired, lonely, barely holding together. Outside, snow was piling on the walkway, but I couldn't bring myself to shovel. Not today. I walked to the window, parting the yellowed curtains just enough to watch a neighbor boy throw snowballs at a tree. His laughter echoed faintly through the glass. I closed my eyes. You try not to count on anyone when you get older. You really try. But they tell you family matters. They tell you blood is thicker than anything. They never tell you what to do when your daughter starts treating you like a faded photograph, something she remembers occasionally but never really looks at. The ski trip charge didn't make me angry. Not immediately. What I felt first was shame. A hollow shame that scraped deep inside me. As if I'd failed her somehow, as if all those years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, college tuition, and dancing in the kitchen to old records had led to this. A charge, a basket, and silence. I called her. Straight to voicemail. "Hey, sweetheart. It's Dad. I just got a charge on my card from Aspen. I guess you're there? Just wanted to check in. Hope you're having a good time. Merry Christmas." I hung up, unsure if my voice had sounded too small. That night, I made soup. Canned tomato and a stale roll I defrosted from the freezer. I ate in silence, the fruit basket still untouched except for the one orange. The lights on the little artificial tree in the corner blinked on their own schedule. I hadn't decorated it, it was already strung from last year. Emily used to love Christmas. She used to beg me to string lights on the roof, even though I was terrified of heights. One year, I did it anyway, shaking the whole time on that ladder, just to see her smile when we lit the whole block. I hadn't heard that laugh in a long time. It wasn't like we had a falling out. No slammed doors. No angry words. Just life, I guess. After her mother died, it was just the two of us. For a while, we clung to each other like driftwood in rough seas. But when she left for college, something shifted. Slowly at first. A missed phone call here. A late birthday card there. She married a man I never really got to know. They moved west. Had 2 kids I'd only met once. I was the dad on the fridge, the one in old photos. I told myself I was okay with that. But sitting in that quiet house on Christmas Eve, with canned soup and a credit card bill, I felt something crack. Something that had been holding together for a long time. The next morning, I woke to sunlight bouncing off the snow outside and a voicemail blinking on my phone. "Hey, Dad. Yeah, I meant to call. It's just been so crazy. The trip was kind of last minute, and Trevor's card got maxed out, so I just used the one you gave me back in college. I didn't think it would still work. I'll totally pay you back, I promise. The kids are having a blast. Anyway, Merry Christmas. We'll call later." Click. I didn't call back. I didn't even know what to say. I spent Christmas Day like any other. Reading, walking a bit, watching the neighbors have their big family dinner through their window, feeling like a ghost passing by a life I used to have. 2 days later, a handwritten letter arrived. From Emily. It was short. "Dad, I'm sorry if the charge upset you. I really didn't think it'd go through. I assumed it was closed. We just needed a break, and it all happened so fast. I'll send you a check next week. Please don't be mad. Also, the kids miss you. Maybe we can Zoom soon. Love, Emily." I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer where I kept others like it: birthday cards, old school drawings, Mother's Day notes scribbled on construction paper. I didn't want her money. I wanted her to remember, not just who I was, but who she used to be when she needed me. That night, I pulled the photo album down from the shelf. There we were building snowmen in the front yard, her in a purple snowsuit, Me with a ridiculous wool hat. Another photo, the Christmas she got her first bike. Her eyes lit up like the whole world had opened. Back when love was simple. Back when I mattered. I thought about writing her back. Telling her everything, the cold house, the broken furnace, the way the silence had started echoing in places I didn't know it could reach. But what would that do? Make her feel guilty? Push her further away? No. Instead, I went to the fruit basket. One by one, I unwrapped the apples, the pears, the chocolate-covered almonds. I placed each piece on a plate. I lit a candle. And I ate, slowly, purposefully, my own strange kind of Christmas dinner. Alone, but not broken. Not yet. Because I still remembered. And maybe someday, she would too. I didn't hear from Emily again until late January. A short email popped up in my inbox. Checking the mail. Hope you're doing well, Dad. No love. No photo of the kids. No call. I stared at the words, reading them again and again. Then I closed the laptop. I hadn't turned the heat on once that month. The check would help, yes, but it wouldn't fix what was broken. What was broken didn't come in a utility bill. It lived in the quiet space between "how are you" and "I miss you." It was in the calls not made, the visits not taken, the old man staring at a mailbox instead of holding his grandchildren. I wasn't angry. Not the way most people think of anger. It was softer than that. Like fog. It crept in, dulled the edges of things. Made memories feel like old recordings, warm. Yes, but distant. Too far to touch. February came with more snow. Thick, unrelenting. The kind of snow that swallows sound and slows everything down. My neighbor, Charlie, a retired mailman a few years younger than me, knocked one morning. "You all right, Frank?" he asked, snow clinging to his jacket. "Haven't seen you out in a while." I nodded. Just staying in. Cold's no friend to these knees. He looked at me for a beat longer than he needed to. "Well, if you need anything, don't be a stranger." I didn't answer. Just gave him a nod and closed the door gently. I appreciated the gesture, I did. But kindness felt like pity these days. I didn't want to be someone's project. Later that week, I sat down at the kitchen table with a pen and an envelope. I began writing Emily a letter. Not about the money, or the ski trip, or the silence. But about me. About the quiet, and the furnace, and the way the walls creaked at night like they missed voices. About how I kept the lights off most nights, not out of thrift, but because the dark didn't expect anything from me. I told her about the photo album. About the soup. About how I peeled that orange and wept. Then I stopped. Ripped the letter in half. Then again. Then again. She didn't need to know all that. Or maybe she did. But I wasn't ready to say it. Not yet. Instead, I wrote 3 sentences on a new sheet. "Dear Em, thanks for the check. Take care of those kids." I didn't sign it. I mailed it anyway. March brought thaw. The snow began to melt in patches, revealing the brown grass beneath. The silence in the house remained the same, though. A steady companion. Like the tick of a clock you stop hearing after a while. One Sunday, I went to church. Not for God. Not really. But for company. People smiled, shook my hand, asked how I'd been. I lied with ease. "Keeping busy," I said. "Reading. Walking a bit." They nodded like that meant something. After the service, a woman named Joyce, widowed 3 years, hair always pinned neatly, asked if I'd join her and a group for coffee. I hesitated. Then I went. We talked about nothing. The weather. The choir's performance. Someone's hip replacement. I sipped weak coffee from a styrofoam cup and listened. Really listened. Not because the topics were interesting, they weren't, but because it felt good to be near voices again. Joyce touched my hand as we said goodbye. "You should come again next week, Frank. Don't be alone so much." I smiled. It almost hurt. That night, I dreamed of Emily. She was 7, wearing the purple snowsuit again, holding my hand as we walked through the yard. The snow was fresh and untouched. She laughed when I slipped. She helped me up, face shining with joy. I woke up with tears on my pillow. The next day, I tried calling her again. It rang. And rang. Then her voice, cheerful but rushed. "Hey, it's Emily. Can't talk right now. Leave a message." Beep. "Hey, Em. It's Dad. Just wanted to say hi. Hope the kids are doing all right. It snowed again. Remember how you used to make those lopsided snowmen? You always gave them 3 arms." I paused. "I miss you, sweetheart." Click. April brought a letter. From her. A real one. Handwritten. "Dad, I listened to your voicemail 3 times. I didn't know what to say back. The truth is, I've been awful. Not just about the charge. About everything. I keep pushing things away, hard things, painful things, and I guess that included you. I think about Mom all the time, but I never talk about her. Not to the kids. Not even to Trevor. It just hurts. And maybe I blamed you for still being here when she's not. That's awful, I know. But I miss you too. I do. And I'm scared that maybe I've ruined us. That too much time has passed. Can we try again? Maybe a video call. Or maybe I could come visit. Just me. I want to talk. Really talk. Love, Emily. I held that letter like it might vanish if I gripped it too tight. I didn't cry. I just sat at the kitchen table and let myself feel the weight of it. The years. The silence. The hope. A few days later, we talked. Over video. Her face on the screen looked tired. Older. But still her. Those same eyes. That same cautious smile. Hey, Dad. Hi, Em. There was a pause, a long one, before she spoke again. I don't know where to start. Anywhere is fine. She took a breath. And so she did. She told me about the kids. About how one of them was struggling in school, and how she'd felt like a failure. About Trevor working too much. About how grief still hung in the house like dust, always there, settling into everything. I listened. Then I spoke. I told her about the silence. The cold. The fruit basket. The orange. The photo album. How I'd almost written a letter that was too heavy to send. She wiped at her eyes. I'm so sorry, Dad. I know, sweetheart. And I did. We talked for 2 hours. And when we hung up, I didn't feel fixed. But I felt something shift. Like maybe spring wasn't just a season. After that call, something changed between us. No promises were made. No sudden declarations. But the silence, the one that used to sit heavy between us, had been broken. And once broken, silence doesn't rebuild easily. Emily called the next week. Then the next. It wasn't always deep conversation. Sometimes just checking in, telling me what the boys were up to. One lost a tooth. The other learned how to whistle. But her voice had softened. There was less guilt in it, more presence. She was showing up. One morning in late April, she asked, "Can I come visit? Just me. A weekend." I paused. My gut clenched a little. Not because I didn't want to see her, but because I'd spent so long building my routines around absence. Around surviving the quiet. "Of course," I said. "I'll clean the guest room." She laughed. "Dad, it's just me. You don't need to do all that." But I did. I spent the week before her visit dusting every corner of the house, scrubbing floors that hadn't seen water in too long, even fixing the rattle in the space heater. I baked her mother's banana bread recipe, the one with too much cinnamon and walnuts she used to sneak from the bowl as a kid. When I picked her up at the airport, she looked so much like her mother it made my breath catch. Older, yes. A few gray strands near her temple. But those eyes searching, kind, a little uncertain they hadn't changed. She hugged me hard, longer than I expected. "You smell like home," she whispered. Back at the house, she walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, the picture frames, the little nick on the kitchen table where she'd carved her initials by accident when she was 10. "This place hasn't changed much," she said. "I didn't want to let go of it," I replied. She looked at me, then really looked. Maybe we both held on too long to the wrong things. That night, we sat in the living room with mugs of tea, the space heater humming between us. She asked if I ever thought about selling the house. Downsizing. I shrugged. Every now and then. But this place, it holds her. Your mom. Emily nodded. I know. There was a long pause before she said, I never said goodbye to her properly. I think I was angry. Not just at her dying, but at you. At the world. At myself. I looked down at my mug. Me too, Em. She reached over, placed her hand on mine. I'm sorry, Dad. For disappearing. For using that card. For forgetting. I didn't pull my hand away. You didn't forget. You just got lost. Life's good at that. She stayed 2 nights. We didn't solve everything. But we didn't need to. We cooked together, laughed over burned pancakes, watched an old movie we both used to love. She cried once standing in the hallway looking at a photo of her mom, holding her as a baby. I don't know if I've done anything right since she left, she whispered. You're here, I said. That's right enough. Before she left, she stood at the front door, suitcase in hand, and said, Come visit us this summer. The boys would love to see you. I'd like that. I mean it, she said. We'll plan it together. I'll hold you to it, I smiled. She kissed my cheek and stepped into the cab. As it pulled away, I waved. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was waving goodbye. May came with longer days and the scent of thawed earth. I started sitting outside in the mornings, coffee in hand, wrapped in my old robe. Birds were returning. Trees were budding. The mailbox wasn't just bills and advertisements anymore. It held postcards, drawings from the grandkids, a letter from Emily every other week, even when we still talked on the phone. One day, a package arrived. Inside was a framed photo. Emily and the boys and me, from her last visit, smiling on the porch. She'd caught me mid-laugh. Behind me, the trees still carried the dull brown of early spring. Taped to the back of the frame was a note. "You still have that laugh that makes everything feel okay." I hung it in the hallway, right beside the photo of her mother. June arrived with warm breezes and soft rain. I got a text from Emily. "We booked tickets. July 9th. The boys are counting down days." So was I. For the first time in years, I pulled the boxes of decorations from the attic. Not holiday ones, just the summer stuff. A string of lights for the porch. The old checkered picnic blanket. The plastic cups we always used for lemonade. I was preparing for life again, not just enduring it. Charlie helped me trim the hedges. Joyce from church dropped off a peach pie. Even the neighbors' kids came over one afternoon to help plant flowers in the yard. Something was blooming in me too. Not just hope, but forgiveness. Not just toward Emily, toward myself. I hadn't used the guest bedroom in years. It had slowly become a catch-all space, boxes of old books, tools I never remembered owning, a pair of ice skates I hadn't worn since the 90s. But that week, as July approached, I cleared it all. Folded fresh linens. Opened the window to let the summer air roll in. Emily and the boys would be here soon. I caught myself humming as I swept the floor. It was a tune my wife used to sing when folding laundry, some soft, wordless melody that always made the house feel lived in. For the first time in years, I realized I missed the sound of people. The thumps and creaks of feet on the stairs. The clatter of dishes. The chaos of life. I was ready for it again. I even bought lemonade. Real lemons. Sugar. Not the powdered stuff. I wanted to make it the way I used to when Emily was small, with too much ice, a sprig of mint, and a chipped pitcher she insisted was magic. On the morning of July 9th, I woke early. Too early. I trimmed my beard. Ironed my best short-sleeve shirt. I even sprayed the porch down with the garden hose, letting the smell of wet concrete drift through the air like memory. Then I waited. When the car finally pulled into the driveway, a rented SUV, sleek and too new for this old neighborhood, I stepped outside and stood at the edge of the walk. The doors opened, and there they were. Emily stepped out first, sunglasses pushed back into her hair, her expression open and soft. And then the boys. Ben, age 7, hair wild like a summer storm. And Jonah, just 5, clinging to a stuffed dinosaur and blinking at the sun. They hesitated. Kids always do. When they meet a grandparent they only know through birthday cards and screen time. I knelt slowly, opening my arms. "Hey there," I said. "You must be Ben and Jonah." They didn't move. Then Emily whispered something, and Ben ran, right into my arms. Jonah followed, a little slower, but he came. And suddenly I was holding both of them, feeling the heat of their small bodies, their laughter vibrating through my chest. Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. Emily stood a few feet back, smiling. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. That day, we did everything and nothing. The boys helped me pick tomatoes from the small garden. We drank lemonade on the porch, sticky and laughing. I told them stories about when their mom was little, how she once tried to skateboard down the front steps and broke her big toe. They didn't believe me until Emily shouted from inside, "It's true." That night, after the kids went to bed curled up in sleeping bags on the living room floor, Emily and I sat on the porch in silence for a while, watching fireflies dance in the dark. "I missed this," she said. I nodded. I didn't realize how much I needed to come back until I was here. I looked at her. "You always had a place here. You still do." She exhaled, slow and heavy. "There were times I didn't know how to be both your daughter and my own person, especially after Mom." I waited. "I think part of me resented how well you held it together," she said. "You kept going. But I broke. And instead of turning to you, I turned away." "I didn't hold it together," I said quietly. "I just learned how to fall apart quietly." She looked down. "I'm sorry." I reached out, placed my hand over hers. "We both did what we could. That's all anyone does." The next morning, we walked down to the park. The boys ran ahead, chasing pigeons and each other. Emily and I sat on a bench in the shade. "Do you remember this place?" I asked. She smiled. "Of course. You used to bring me here every Saturday. You used to cry when we left." "I cried about everything back then." "No," I said. "You cried because you didn't want joy to end." She looked at me, eyes misting over. "I still don't," she whispered. The trip lasted 5 days. And on the morning they left, I didn't feel the sharp ache I expected. Instead, I felt full, like something that had been hollow inside me was finally stitched closed. Before they pulled out of the driveway, Ben rolled down his window and shouted, "Grandpa, can we come back next summer?" I laughed. "You better." He grinned, showing me the gap where his front teeth used to be. Emily leaned over the steering wheel, her voice low but steady. "Thank you, Dad. I always will." After they left, the house was quiet again. But it was a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of absence. The silence of peace. I kept the lemonade pitcher out. I let the boys' crayon drawings stay taped to the fridge. I opened the windows each morning and let the sun roll in, touching everything like a blessing. One afternoon in August, I got a letter from Emily. A real letter, in her handwriting. "Dad, the boys won't stop talking about you. Jonas says he wants to grow tomatoes now. Ben wants to build a lemonade stand. They miss you already. I do too. I told Trevor I want to visit again soon. He understands. I think maybe I've been away too long from the parts of me that mattered. And you're one of those parts. I hope you know that now. Love always. Emily." I placed that letter in the drawer, next to the others. But this time, I didn't close it. I left it open. Because this story ours wasn't over. It had just begun again. By September, the leaves began to turn. The garden faded back into the earth, the tomatoes gone, the mint browning at the edges. But I kept the porch lights up, the ones Emily and the boys helped hang. Each time I turned them on at dusk, the soft yellow glow felt like a memory still alive. I talked to the neighbors more now. Joyce would wave from her window and sometimes bring me over leftovers from her Sunday dinners. Charlie helped me patch the fence along the backyard. People noticed. "You're different," they'd say. "Lighter somehow." Maybe I was. Not because things were perfect. Not because the years lost could be reclaimed. But because Emily had come home. And because I had finally allowed myself to be seen, not just endured. One crisp morning in early October, I received a package. No return address, just my name in handwriting I recognized immediately. Inside was a leather-bound notebook. On the first page, in Emily's handwriting, "Dad, these are stories I want you to write. Not for me, not for the boys, for you. Because I've realized something. You were never just a father. You were always a storyteller. Every bedtime, every scraped knee, every hard season, you turned it all into something softer, something survivable. Write them down, before they slip away. With all my love, Emily." I stared at the blank pages. I hadn't written anything in years. Not since my wife passed. But something stirred in me, like a window creaking open to an old wind. That afternoon, I made tea, sat at the kitchen table, and began to write. Not the story of loss, but the story of love that tried its best to survive it. I wrote about Emily's first steps and how she refused to crawl. She just got up one day and ran into the furniture. I wrote about the night we all slept in the living room during a snowstorm, huddled under blankets, laughing and eating canned beans by candlelight. I wrote about my wife, the way she used to leave notes in the bathroom mirror, fog-written love letters I never erased until they faded on their own. I wrote about the silence after she died, and the voice that broke through it years later, my daughter's voice calling me dad again like she still meant it. I filled 20 pages in one sitting. My hand ached, but I didn't stop until the sun dipped below the tree line. The next day, I wrote more. And the next. Sometimes, I'd call Emily and read parts to her over the phone. She cried once softly, without trying to hide it. "I don't know why you never told me some of this," she whispered. "Maybe I didn't think you wanted to hear it," I said. "Well, I do now." That notebook became a kind of companion, a place to store the memories I used to carry like sharp stones in my pocket, too heavy, too painful, too complicated. But written down, they became something else, something kinder. October rolled into November. The boys sent me drawings of pumpkins and ghosts. I sent back a photo of myself dressed as a pirate, just the hat and eye patch. They howled with laughter over FaceTime. Emily texted me the next day. "You look ridiculous. You look like Dad." And then, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I stared at those words for a long time. I didn't answer right away, because I realized something I hadn't just waited for her. I'd forgiven her without knowing when or how. I'd held on, not with anger, but with hope disguised as habit. We always think forgiveness is a moment, a grand scene where everything breaks and mends in the same breath. But sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes it's a fruit basket on a cold day, a voicemail left at the right time, a porch light that stays on. When December came, Emily called and asked, "Would you want to spend Christmas here this year?" I was silent for a moment. Then, "I'd love that. We'll take care of everything," she promised. "Tree, stockings, dinner. Just bring yourself. And the stories." So I packed a suitcase. The same one I used the last time I took a vacation over a decade ago. It still had sand in the zipper. I brought the notebook. A bag of small gifts for the boys, nothing fancy, just things I thought they'd laugh at. And I brought an old photo of Emily and her mom, standing in front of a snowman with 3 arms. I'd had it framed. The flight was smooth. A cab picked me up, and when I arrived at their house, the porch light was on. Emily opened the door, arms already reaching for a hug. Inside, the boys had decorated the tree with more enthusiasm than symmetry. There were cookies, music, laughter. Trevor shook my hand firmly. "Glad you're here, Frank," he said, sincere this time. And then, on Christmas morning, after the wrapping paper had been torn apart, after the cocoa and pancakes, Emily handed me a small box. Inside was a silver picture frame, and in it a photo I didn't know existed. It was me and her. From this past summer, I was reading something aloud to the boys. She was watching me from the side, not smiling, just watching, eyes full of something like love and sorrow and understanding all at once. "I took this when you weren't looking," she said, "because I finally saw you again." I didn't speak. I just hugged her, not like a father holds a child, but like two people who'd walked through something cold and hard and come out the other side still carrying warmth. That night, after they'd all gone to bed, I sat by the tree. The lights blinked softly. Outside, snow began to fall, and I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, peeling an orange in an empty kitchen, staring at a charge he didn't understand. And the man I was now, not just forgiven, but known. Under the tree sat a single fruit basket, wrapped in gold cellophane, a red bow on top. A card tucked in. This time, just the fruit. "Love you, Emily." I laughed, really laughed, and let the warmth fill me.